It's time for the 1430 Connection on 1430 WNAV and 99.9 FM, spotlighting news, newsmakers, and important community issues. Now, with this week's edition of the 1430 Connection, here is WNAV news anchor Donna Cole.
Welcome to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me today is Joe Hudson. He's the Annapolis Police Department Latino Liaison. And thank you, Joe, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
What does the Latino Liaison mean?
Well, I work for the police department in the city of Annapolis, and I am the direct link between the community and the Latino community and the police department. And I have a number of duties. I assist officers with translation, speaking to the public. I also work with a large number of kids within the schools and outside of the schools, and I'm pretty much a resource for the community.
The Latino community, has it been consistently growing over the years?
In leaps and bounds.
In leaps and bounds.
I think the last census that came out said that the population was about 18%. I would say it's probably closer to 22, 23%.
So you're a busy man. Do you ever get a vacation?
I get vacations. I operate, I would say, like with an open door policy. Mm-hmm. I will answer my phone at any time that somebody calls me, and a lot of people know that if they just leave me a message, I will get back to them within an hour or two. Within
recent history, we've also seen some gangs spring up globally as well as locally.
Right.
The one of most concern here in Annapolis?
It would be MS-13.
Which in Spanish is known as?
La Mara Salvatrucha.
You have a presentation called The Story of the Unaccompanied Minor.
Yes.
Could you let us know what that is?
Basically, I start off with the Salvadorian Revolution that happened in the late 70s, early 80s. I talk about the destruction that happened during that time, and it was probably one of the most violent civil wars that had ever happened in any country. And then I talk about what's happening in El Salvador now, the violence, the murders, the homicides, the violence against women. I also talk about what's happening in Mexico right now, which, even though they don't have a civil war, they have a huge cartel problem. And there's a lot of violence within Mexico itself right now. But I talk about, why, parents came over here 10, 12, 13 years ago, left their children, to be raised by the grandparents. And why those children come here now because of the violence and the gangs that are happening there. And kids are pretty much being forced into gangs. In the rural community, schools are not safe as they are here. Gangs can walk into the school at any time, pick out a kid and take them out, and no one can stop them. And then I talk about that journey that they take to get here to the United States. It's a very dangerous journey. And a lot of times I tell parents, I said, we live in Annapolis and that's pretty safe, but would you put your 13-year-old, give him a bottle of water, a backpack, and say, California's over there, call me when you get there?
But they live in such fear.
They live in such fear, and that's what they do, because here in this country, we would never do that to our child. We barely send them across town.
Right.
But they're taking this incredible journey to get here. And I think it's important that people understand that story and understand why they're coming across the border.
All right. And then you had a gang spring up in California several years ago, MS-13. How did that happen? How did that play out?
In the early 80s, a large part of the Salvadorian community left El Salvador because of the violence and went to the Los Angeles area, the Pico Union area to be exact. As in any immigrant community that comes in, they're preyed upon at first. It happened with the Italians, the Chinese, the Irish, back when they came over. Well, the Salvadorians were no different. Mm-hmm. They were trying to get established. They took whatever job they could get, and other populations were preying on them. So they just started defending themselves, fighting back, and that's how MS-13 was started.
And when was that?
In the early 80s.
Is it global, or is it just United States?
Because of the violence that they were having at that time, a lot of those guys were deported back to El Salvador. And these guys, a lot of them didn't know a trade or anything like that. So what they learned here in the United States, they took back to El Salvador with them and just grew from there. Now they're globally now.
All right. When we come back, we're going to take a short break. What's going on with MS-13 here in Annapolis? This is Donna Cole on the 1430 Connection. We will be right back. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. I'm in the studio with Joe Hudson. He's the Annapolis Police Department's Latino Liaison. We're talking about the Latino community and some problems that have, in recent history, sprang up. Joe, how many murders are connected to MS-13 in Annapolis?
Honestly, I can't tell you at this time because this is being handled by the gang task force that's made up by the state police, Anne Arundel County, and the city police, and those are things that they're pretty much holding to themselves right now because it's an ongoing investigation.
Okay, you can tell me though.
I can tell you that over the summer we had 3 juveniles that went missing, and actually 4, and 3 of them have been found, and they were found deceased, and we're still looking for the 4th one.
You're a father.
I am.
I'm a mother. What's this doing to you?
Oh, it's scary. It makes you look at things in a different way. It makes you want to keep a closer eye on your children and teach them warning signs, or just how to stay in safe places and how to make the right decisions.
Are kids scared? You're talking to a lot of kids. Are they scared, or is it sort of this can't happen to me?
It's a mix. I mean, I have a lot of kids that do worry about what could happen to them, and some of these kids were friends with the people that went missing. Other kids, they're just not sure. And then we do have those kids, as always, that say, I can protect myself. This can't happen to me.
What are some of the tips that you give to parents to make sure their kids either are not joining gangs or don't become victims? Victims of gang violence.
The first thing I tell parents is that you have to spend time with your kids. You have to get to know your kids, not know who they are, know what they like, know what they get into, know who their friends are, who their friends' parents are, and most importantly, parents have to teach their children values. I run mentor groups called one for the boys called Joven Noble, and one for the girls is called Zanachli.
And what does that mean?
It's a native Latino word, and it means strong.
Okay.
We teach them a set of values. The main ones that we teach them is that they need to keep their word. We tell them not to do anything to hurt themselves and others, and then take time to reflect, pray, and celebrate. Mm-hmm. As I poll my kids, I always do this with them. I put a full bottle of water in front of them. I said, is this half empty or half full? 9 out of 10 kids will tell me that glass is half empty. And that's how they look. So we teach them, that life is not that bad. When you take time to reflect every day, you think about the things that you consider to be bad to you, and for every bad thing, you find 2 good things that happen to you during the day. Because we're trying to change their mindset that, life is good and that there's a lot of good things that happen to you, because they're not recognizing that.
That's teenagers in general, not just
Latino
Latino
teenagers
in
general, but, when you have... when you're scared of what's going on outside your front door, and you're struggling in school, and you don't have a great relationship with your parents, it's really hard to see that good in life.
Yeah. As far as the parents go, you work with them as well.
I do work with them.
And is there a language barrier that's playing part in this? That the parents don't feel like they're keeping up with the kids?
It's not so much that they don't keep up with the kids with the language. It's more that the kids have become much more Americanized than the parents do. A lot of our parents still hold true to the very old customs and traditions, and our kids are they're much more Americanized, and they want more liberty. We're a traditional Latino family is very close, and they do everything together. Our kids, well, those are my friends, and my friends are getting to do that. I want to go do it too.
Right.
And a lot of times, there's that conflict within that itself.
All right, we're going to take another short break. When we come back, more about what's going on in the Latino community and with gang-related violence here in Annapolis. This is Donna Cole on the 1430 Connection. We will be right back. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. I'm in the studio with Joe Hudson. He's the Annapolis Police Department's Latino Liaison. He's a pretty busy man. We're in the midst of some gang issues here in Annapolis. You've never seen anything like this. How many years have you been doing?
I've been in Annapolis since 2009. And prior to that, I was working in Baltimore City. And this is new to me for the most part.
And interestingly enough, you just told me this before we started this interview, we're also in the midst of a heroin and opioid epidemic. MS-13, the Latino community, this isn't part of that. This rise of MS-13 and its foundations here in the United States, it's a whole separate thing from the opioid epidemic.
For the most part, yes. I see very few Latinos that are involved with heroin or opioids. I don't really know why that is, but for the most part, they don't use opioids like that.
All right, we just spoke about what you're telling the kids and how to stay safe and how to look at life through rose-tinted glasses, that there's always positives to be
Right.
found. With the parents, what are you telling them how to recognize kids and kids that are in gangs, how to make sure your kid is staying safe?
One of the first things we tell them is, has your child recently changed their group of friends? Did they have a solid group of friends and then all of a sudden, for no apparent reason, they just have a new group of friends right now? Have they lost respect for the mother, the father, the family? Are their friends more important? And I understand that that's typical of some teenagers, but the respect piece isn't always that part. Have they changed their style of dress? Are they favoring any particular color?
Well, what color do we need to...
It changes.
Okay. On a daily basis or weekly basis?
It could change on a weekly basis. It could change on a monthly basis. It all depends. But
So-
if all of a sudden, they have, if they have a variety of clothes and now all of a sudden they want to represent, blue or red or something, or some other color, and everything they wear has to be those colors, that's not normal for kids.
So this is in gang vernacular, flying the colors? Is that what this is referred
It's
to?
representing.
Okay.
Flying the colors is when they have a bandana and they're hanging it out their back pocket.
And that's not a good thing either.
Well, they pretty much have gotten away from that, too.
Okay. So tattoos?
Tattoos is, gangs used to use a lot of tattoos. Gangs have gotten away from that because they're easily identified.
Okay. So there's nothing that screams out, I am an MS-13 member?
No. Not,
Are there hangouts in Annapolis that we should know about or that you can tell us about?
those pretty much change as well. Organizations, a business will change its business model to keep up with the times and to keep up with the population. Criminal organizations do the same way. You know, once if they're doing this and that gets found out, they'll modify their plan. So those things change as well.
Okay.
And as a parent, that may not be apparent to you because a lot of these things are happening behind the scenes. But the visible things that are happening within the house, those are the things that you're going to notice. And the better that you know your child, the more readily you're going to see those changes and ask yourself, this isn't normal. Why is this happening? And then you can call the police, either Anne Arundel County or Annapolis, and you can say, hey, you know, I'm seeing this. Is this something that I really should be concerned about? If they're a good student and they normally have good grades, and then all of a sudden they don't care about school anymore, you know, that could be another flag. I mean, there could be a lot of reasons that we're not doing well in school, and we once were. But if you take that and then a combination of the other pieces, then you start to see that there might be a serious problem.
You said, and this before we started the interview, the importance of spending time with the kids cannot be understated. And it's interesting because, you know, when kids are younger, we spend an inordinate amount of time with them, and as they go off to high school and they want their own freedoms and their own liberty and their own independence, it becomes less and less. But this is in fact the time we want to.
That is the time that you want to be more involved with them. And that's not to say that you're watching over them like a hawk, but, you know, in elementary school, every parent wants to be involved in the school, and they want to go to every function. And then in middle school, that drops off. And by the time they get to high school, you know, we'd hardly even go into the doors of the high school to go. But the high school, all the schools are looking for volunteers. And, you know, and that's a perfect way to stay involved with your child. Get to know who the teachers are. Get to know what the routine of the school is. But that involvement in school is just as important as the involvement at home. You know, and making sure that they're doing their homework, helping them with their homework, reviewing that homework. You know, a lot of our kids will say, you know, I didn't have any homework today. Well, the school has Parent Connect. Get on there, see if they did or didn't. But you have to be monitoring, constantly monitoring.
So you're saying it is okay to be a helicopter mom or dad?
Absolutely,
Thank
it
you.
is. I have 2 grown daughters with 6 grandkids, and and we stay involved with them. They have their parents are watching over. We're watching over them too. I mean, that's what the family's supposed to do.
I know you said you have one of the most well-known phone numbers in Annapolis.
I probably do. I mean, I get calls all the time, and I get calls from people that I've never even talked to, but somebody gave me my phone number and said, hey, give him a call. He can, either give you the information you're looking for or give you some ideas.
And there's people that might need some help knowing what Snapchat is, what Instagram is, how to look for your kids, how to make sure. And so what is your phone number?
It's 410-858-0759.
And do you have an email address people can email you?
It's jehudson@annapolis.gov.
Can you give sort of a 3-minute roundup of everything we just spoke about in Spanish for our Spanish listeners?
Sure. Es importante que estamos en la vida de nuestros hijos, que vemos lo que están haciendo, que conocemos ellos y los amigos y los papás de los amigos, que ayudamos en la escuela y que somos voluntarios ahí en la escuela. También es importante que vemos el teléfono que ellos tienen. Eso es una computadora y es posible que ellos se puedan meter en problemas con eso y tenemos que vigilar todo lo que están haciendo, a dónde van, a qué horas van a regresar, cómo van ahí. Y es importante que sabemos todo de nuestros hijos y tenemos que ponernos en contacto con ellos. Ellos no se van a poner en contacto con nosotros, tenemos que ponernos en contacto con ellos. Y puedes hablar con los facilitadores ahí en la escuela. Si no entiendes lo que está pasando en la escuela, le puedes llamar ahí en la escuela también.
Thank you. I did not hear numbers in there, so can you repeat your phone number?
Mi número de teléfono es 410-858-0759.
And your email address?
It's jehudson@annapolis.gov.
Should we be scared out in the public in Annapolis?
In general, no.
Okay.
I mean, if we're going about our daily lives doing the best we can and doing the right things, in general, we don't need to be scared. That's a hard question to answer because
there is this thing happening.
Anything can happen
right.
to anybody at any time. But in general, if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and living that good life, a lot of us don't have anything to worry about.
Is there fear of retribution by some of the parents or kids? By going to you and telling you that they're scared about something?
There can be, but if they give me a phone call, I will go I will meet them at any time, any place. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, a lot of times we just get involved in a conversation over the telephone. A lot of parents will bring their children to me at my office, or I'll go to their home and meet with them. But I do whatever I can to make sure that their information doesn't go out in anywhere.
Repeat that in Spanish.
Si necesitan ayuda, me pueden llamar sin miedo que su nombre o tu dirección va a salir en el público. Me puedes llamar, puedo ir a verte en tu casa o en mi oficina o cualquier lugar que tú quieres.
Joe, I can't thank you enough for being here today.
Thank you.
This is Donna Cole on the 1430 Connection. We will see you next week.